Hi, I'm Liam Dann. Welcome to Money Talks. On this podcast, we're not going to tell you how to get rich. We're not even going to try and pick the next interest rate move. We'll be talking to interesting New Zealanders about money and how it affects their lives. With me today, I have Leighton Roberts, the co-founder and co-CEO of Sharesies, the smart app that has transformed investing for many New Zealanders. Does that sound right, Leighton?
Yeah, bang on.
Yeah, great.
That's
Look,
right.
Whereabouts did you grow up?
Grew up in Hawera in Taranaki, so was born and raised there, South Taranaki. Very proud Taranaki boy.
Nice. And were you like on a farm or anything, or was it just in a rural community, I guess?
Everyone in Hawera lives pretty close to a farm, but yeah, we weren't actually living on a farm, but our neighbour was a farm. Yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to money, I guess, what's your first memory of having money? Do you remember getting pocket money or when you first held it in your hand or anything like that?
Yeah, pretty vaguely, I think. I mean, I definitely got pocket money at certain points. I feel like mum and dad would try behaviour money as a behaviour tool, perhaps, every few months, and we'd go in and out of it. But I mean, when I was a kid, most of it are sort of corner dairy type things. Putting my pop's socks on is a bit of an odd memory. And he would pay us, or digging out coins from the back of his couch. As with all my cousins, I had a lot of cousins, so that's probably my earliest memory.
Yeah, I mean, were there any clues when you look back at your childhood that you would be so interested in the investing world?
I definitely was always interested in business. So oddly, I used to tell everyone that I was going to own. I thought I'd be a pilot actually, which is pretty funny now because I don't particularly like flying, and the idea of being in a helicopter or a plane with one engine sort of freaks me out a bit. But that's more recent. That's evolved more recently, that fear. But I used to have this idea that I'd be a pilot and own the company Sunshine Air. That would be one of the first companies to fly out of Hawera straight to Australia. So
wow,
a pretty big ambition.
Yeah, quite specific too. I noticed, I might have been reading the wrong thing, but when I looked at your LinkedIn, and the earliest thing I could see on your CV was a musician in the New Zealand Army. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I was a trumpet player. It was a bit of a last-minute decision at the end of university. I always thought I'd study business in some way. I did all the business stuff at school and right involved in young enterprise and stuff. But ended up. I also did a lot of music, played a lot of in brass bands. So ended up in the New Zealand Army Band and was there for almost 6 years in the end. Actually did my finance degree while I was in the Army Band. So
wow,
it was just a cool experience to have. I think a lot of travel. Hang out with my friends all the time.
It seems like maybe you've kind of, like, in some ways, some people would have the music as the hobby and the investing as the core career. You might have done it the other way around a little bit. You've had the investing as started as a hobby, and while you've been doing working in a sort of more artistic world.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It is a bit funny like that, isn't it? I mean, I definitely knew very early on that, speaking about my own money habits, I definitely err on the side of spending over savings. So like a house deposit, which is, the classic investment that everyone wanted when I was 16, 17, arguably still actually in New Zealand, that just seemed like a donkey's away if I couldn't create some sort of behavior. That's where my interest in investing really came in. It's like, well, I've got to find a way to do this, which is going to be better than the bank savings rate. So well, I mean, that way to go about it, I think. That's
really resonated, I think, with a lot of people who use Sharesies in that sense, because that idea that it just the house was so far away, right? That you want to do something better with your money than just either spend it or put it in a deposit account.
Yeah, that's right. And it wasn't even, to be honest, the deposit account wasn't the scary part for me. It was more the fact that if I ever put it into my savings account, it was so easily accessible.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make it past too many weekends. So there was a lot around discipline for me. Once I started this investment club when I was 17 with friends and family, and it's, it had some pretty selfish reasons behind it. Yeah, one is like, I'm not going to be able to save that much money up by myself in any sort of time horizon that works for me. And two, if I have a few people doing that with me, then maybe we can hold each other to account. And quite competitive, the people that I chose and my family by nature anyway. So, you could always bank on if you missed a payment or something. There'd be a bit of ribbing going on and stuff. So that was like super important to starting my investing journey.
Yeah. Well, look, take us through the way that emerged and evolved into something that became Sharesies, I guess. So in your family growing up, was it sort of did you feel like it was a sort of investment focused house? Was business and economics and all that part of the world of your parents?
Not particularly. I was around small business owners. So my pop and some of my aunties and uncles had their own businesses, and I'm not sure how much attention I paid to that necessarily. But my mum and her brothers had this investment group. I don't think they called it a club, which I did a bit later, but they owned some. I actually need to get the full reason how this came about. I think it's because when my pop was getting out of his businesses, he sold them the properties. But I actually don't know if that's exactly what happened. Anyway, I always liked that idea that there was people doing it with people you could trust, your family and stuff. So that's sort of how that started there. Like I would say, I just certainly didn't want for anything. I was very privileged with regards to that growing up, but equally certainly not. I wouldn't say money was a big part of our life, or my parents, or investments. I'm pretty sure they made their first share investments or reasonably close to it through Sharesies as well. But they were in a position where they could have certainly give us a great upbringing, but also have some money on the side. They had investment property, or one or two of those and stuff like that. And we had great holidays around New Zealand. So probably a very middle class and upbringing. Very, very. I loved my childhood, and I reflect on it really fondly.
Yeah. I mean, I ask everyone on this podcast, what's the poorest you've ever been? Was there a time when you were out on your own and really felt like money was a struggle?
Yeah, so many times. And I've got quite a high appetite for risk, and as a result, it means I'm normally looking for things where. Well, I normally find myself interested and involved in things where not necessarily that liquid. It's like everything I do is going to have a 20-year payback or something like that. So not only are there times where I haven't had a lot of money, like when I was a student, you don't have a lot, and I would always still do my $50 a week investment, and basically everything else was spent. So I was quite often scratch. I felt very rich on student loan day type thing. I was that type of personality, I think. But I did always have the comfort that a bit of a fallback, I suppose, which a lot of people don't have, which I was lucky to have. Which is ultimately, I think I knew in the back of my mind, Mum and Dad would be there if I ever needed to ask, and I don't think I really did need to too often. But if I did, that's always nice to know. And I guess I'm just in a constant state, really. I'm learning a lot right now in this market. The stakes have got a little bit higher, I suppose, over the last 15, 20 years and stuff, and around different ways to invest or manage money, particularly once you might have a little bit more of it around. So I'm finding that really interesting.
And I mean, there was a long bull market. Where did you come in on when I think about GFC and that crash, and then there was a pretty long bull market out of the GFC until we hit the COVID crash.
So I was actually oblivious to the GFC more or less because I was in the army, and I was even though I was interested, I did have an ASB securities account, and I had a few stocks that I bought and didn't really trade them. I just bought. I'm more of a buyer than a seller. I haven't sold much in my life at all, actually, but I really learned about it in my finance course, which I started in 2009. This is what I was like, wow, I can't believe this happened. And it was sort of reasonably oblivious to it, this massive thing. So I've learned a lot about it since. And I went into banking not long after that and got, lots of history lessons and stuff. And now I hear a lot of stories from people, but mostly enjoyed, as you say, a good market for a long time, and albeit pretty volatile in the last 3 or so years. This is the first sort of, I'd say, prolonged period of pressure that I feel like I've experienced in a position where I'm like really cognitive of it and thinking through it quite a lot. So, finding it really fascinating.
I guess in terms of being able to start thinking about opportunities again and which areas are taking off. In some ways, I mean, everyone loves a bull market, but it had got so overvalued, and in some ways there's probably more interest for someone like yourself in a market now.
Yeah, I think I definitely would explain myself to have a bit of an abundance mindset. So whilst, that you asked if I ever felt poor, and I was like, yeah, I definitely find myself in scarce positions, did a lot when I was younger, but like mindset wise, I've always being pretty keen to find the opportunity in things, and I think that's true for right now. Like with all big problems come the greatest of opportunities. So it's interesting to see where those are and what opportunities are coming. And if I look at actually how I think this is really well understood. If you look at the investors who use Sharesies anyway, I actually saw some data the other day on. Which I'm about to present at a conference in a couple of weeks, but it was showing that how the investors on Sharesies have behaved through this market, specifically over the last 6 months or 7 months, and it's just been so we're still buyers in the market every day, which that's just not been reflected through other demographics or other brokers, and even in other countries actually. So
it's quite a high level of understanding of how this works.
Yeah, it seems to be really well understood that there's an opportunity here. And of course, most of Sharesies investors are dollar cost averages. That's the strategy they use. So that means buying, every week or every month or whatever that is. And they seem to get that that strategy is really rubbish if you don't
stick it in.
Make sure you continue to do it right now. There's no good just doing it when it's high.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'll just jump back a bit. Can you take us through then the opportunity and the leap into Sharesies itself? So you're, I guess you'd found your way to Kiwibank, is that right? And you're working there, and you sort of right time and right place, meeting the right people. Is that sort of? Yeah,
I feel very lucky for the career I had at Kiwibank. Kiwibank was growing, still was. It's still growing, but it was going through quite a large phase of growth when I was there, and that just meant opportunities for people with less experience than might otherwise happen. And I started in the call center. I think I was in the call center sort of doing credit card stuff and that for about 6 months, and then got an analyst job, and I did that for about 3 months, and I got a portfolio analyst job, and I did that for about a year, and then my boss took over to Niue to manage a bank over there of all things, and I was promoted into his job, and then I just had this really, really epic 5 years of development, which went from really appreciating the customers at the level of being on the phones to them, which Sharesies, I encourage as many people as possible to spend as much time in that granular level where you really hear what people are thinking and stuff, right through to the portfolio, large billions of dollars of portfolio management. So there was such a.
So
and
I guess
course,
you just one of those periods where you put your head down and really grab you focus on career, grab everything going, kind of.
Yeah, I did, but I really enjoyed it as well. I mean, and I did, I worked hard, there's no doubt about that, but also just really enjoyed it and was lucky enough to meet heaps of great people. Kiwibank was incredible at investing in professional development. And I was lucky enough to be on some programs with that and meet some great people. And so I actually met Sonia, who had the original idea about Sharesies, or her idea was, somewhere where I can invest $50 and it can be fun and it can be accessible. And we were connected because I had an investment club, and we had these two ideas come together, and that's sort of what started the conversation about Sharesies.
So who's the tech? I mean, it sounds like your skill has really been understanding investment and having a really good sense of how that works. Where does the tech side come in? Because that's one of the things, is just making it so accessible for people through the app.
Yeah, that's right. We actually had 6 co-founders, which is really weird, but I'm not a big believer in rules and business, even less so. I've never been a believer in rules, because so often you find out where the rule came from, and it's a reason that doesn't exist. So I just really asking why, I suppose. But the 6 of us got together, and it was so organic. It just happened. We started conversations, we had a few coffees. It was pretty loosely connected, to be honest, in some places. I mean, Brooke and I are married now, but we were a couple at the time, but not married. So obviously we knew each other pretty well. Sonia and I worked together, but not overly closely. We had a few coffees at Kiwibank every now and again. And then Ben, who was our designer, he was Sonia's partner. I'd never met him. And then Martin played in a brass band with me, and his business partner Richard. So they were our 2 technical people. So in that group we had the things we really need to start the business. So we had Ben, who is responsible for the brand design and the product design, which is so key to create. We really hold the creative side of Sharesies close to our hearts here. And then the technical side and technical excellence, which Martin and Richard brought in spades. And I sometimes think it's so lucky because I had no idea if those guys were going to be, now that I think about it, we're building a financial product that needs to trade live on an exchange, dealing with literally billions of dollars of people's money. And it just so happened, Martin and I worked on a band committee and we really liked how each other worked. So
it was a bonding over the brass band.
Yeah, you can realize qualities in each other.
What was he? Your trumpet? Was he trumpet?
No, he was a drummer, yeah.
Drummer and a trumpet. Yeah, great.
Yeah, and I just feel it's just pretty funny actually to look back on. But yeah, that's the technical side.
Yeah, because it is pretty epic. It's pretty big to imagine, and allowing access into all the markets around the world. How do you sort of even start getting into the back end of, I guess it's been pretty tied up until a few years ago by the big brokerages and so on.
Yeah, like a whole lot of naivety, I think, on how easy or hard it might be. That's how you get started, right? I think as soon as you know too much, it gets a lot harder because you burden yourselves with all the problems before you even have to face them. But we just took it when we still develop a product like that, which is one step at a time. Try something. If it breaks, we fix it.
Yeah.
And keep on going. And we understand where our risks are. And we always draw a line at customer money, right? We never put that at risk.
Yeah.
But, almost everything else is up for grabs on us having a crack at it and seeing as long as we can make sure that customer, we're looking after that. So we sort of just took that approach. And it is funny to think because now, so every now and again I ask what I'm most proud about at Sharesies, and what I'm most proud about is when we started, no one thought they could be an investor. Like we used to speak to rooms of people and say, who here is an investor? And you'd get like 3 people put their hand up out of a couple hundred. And then you say, who wants to be? And literally every time everyone put their hand up. It was like this aspirational thing. Whereas now we ask those same questions like, who is an investor? And you might get half the room. A lot more people do it now. But if you say who can be or who wants to be, everyone knows they can. Like there's platforms now and stuff. That's really changed. So, yeah, the combination of technology and a bit of ambition to just give it a crack, I think, is how that played out. And then just continue to push boundaries. Yeah.
You'd know the story, but 1987 really put New Zealand back a long way in terms of investing in the share markets around the world. It was almost like it ruined a generation, and then there was this big gap. And for years I was covering markets and things, and it was a handful of older investors and really not many other people doing retail investing. And so, how much of it, do you feel a sort of sense of generational change and being part of a wave of something? Completely.
And even more so now that I've seen this play out in this market, like the big question mark for Sharesies for so many people was how will people behave when it's not all roses.
Yeah.
And March 2020 was a bit of a hint at that. So we had the markets drop 40% over a week, really, and people just flooded in. This was the big buy the dip momentum.
Yeah.
And it didn't last very long. That markets shot up again and encouraged even more people in. But this one here, we're now into a sustained economic downturn where you've got a lot of competing priorities for your money, whether that's just trying to live, which is definitely we can all feel that, or the fact that you can now have a savings account with a better interest rate, or you've got, you have to put more on your mortgage, whatever that is, but yet people are continuing to do it. So I really think that's changed, and I'm really hopeful for New Zealand about that as well. 87 is such an interesting case study. It took 10 years for the New Zealand markets to recover from that. It took about a year for the US.
Yeah.
The impact on us as an economy, you compare the strength of New Zealand and Australia, even right now, a lot of it's in the confidence and risk taking.
Yeah.
Versus, in New Zealand, we got all tied up in property for too long. So I'm just excited that people will feel more confident. And, right now, the average portfolio on Sharesies is still about $4,000 or $5,000. We have people with millions of dollars, and we have people with $10, and everyone in between. But as it grows and grows, the impact that that's going to have on New Zealand as an economy and as a place to live is I'm really hopeful for that. I'm excited by it.
Yeah, well, it seems to me that also people learn. So you can start with relatively low stakes. If you're just putting a little bit of money aside, and it can go wrong. And it's not like 87. You haven't bet the house on it. And you will learn and learn and learn how these things work, which seems like a positive. Hey, look, another Money Talks question. What's the most indulgent purchase you've made? I'm guessing you're doing all right now. The company's going well. Are you still a spender?
I am still a spender, but not. I wouldn't say I'm an indulger too much. I did probably 2 years ago. One Christmas we got a really nice house for like over Christmas and New Year's break, and we invited a bunch of our friends and we paid for it. So that's one thing that comes to mind.
Good party.
Yeah. Like it was cool when everyone was there for a week, and it was great fun. And I really like doing things like that, where bringing people on trips or something like that, and just because I enjoy people's company and prefer that. I still have like 2 pairs of pants in my wardrobe, and I only wear Sharesies or Waitoa t-shirt. Waitoa is another business I'm involved in, which is a beer business, but that's about all I wear now. I always used to judge my dad wearing his work clothes, and now I'm definitely that person. One thing we did buy not so long ago was we bought a Tesla Model Y car, so the first new car. Replaced our 2007 Mazda Demio, so that felt like a big step up. Unfortunately, someone went up the backside of it about 3 weeks later. No. So we're literally only about to get it replaced because it's really hard to get parts here. So that was sort of like the
trouble with having a nice car. Sort of like, I guess there's that song, isn't it? More money, more problems. Do you ever feel that? It's as things grow, do you feel the stress of that, or is it just like a thrill to be growing it?
It's a thrill to be growing, and it's not all been smooth sailing for Sharesies, that's for sure. Like, we've had lots of hard times and a lot of stressful times, and we quit our jobs to start the business, and we didn't have it. We started Sharesies with $20,000, which might sound like a lot to some people, but when you've got 6 people trying to live off of it and build a company on it, it's not a whole lot of money. And I don't really think more money, more problems. Not for us anyway. I think more responsibility, more problems, and I think those two things are quite different. And sometimes they can be. You can feel like they're the same thing, but I don't know that they are. But the where I feel pressure often is supporting people, and particularly people who we employ, and outcomes for our customers and stuff, like making sure we're doing really good things there. But I don't have that other feeling. Really.
A new question I've been asking people is a lotto question. I don't know whether it still applies, but do you ever fantasize about winning lotto, or did you? And when you did, how much did you fantasize about winning? Like, it sort of goes to whether you dream of 100 million or
that would have been mind blowing. No, I normally the Powerball ones capture me these days. Like, what if you got that 25 million? I might just, what if that landed in your account? And I've always actually been quite generous with it, in my mind, like who I'll give it to, and I really enjoy that idea. But also, what sort of celebration? Like, how many people can I get on a plane to Bali or something? I don't know. Where's somewhere really cool? So I've definitely had those. The lotto. Probably less so now because I just don't find myself around lotto that much for some reason. But if I do walk past and see the jackpot, then I'm buying one for some reason. It captures me. I told you I'm a risk hunter. So.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it sounds like a lot of your focus is back into the business at the moment. Like it sounds like you guys aren't taking a lot out. You're growing. I see the KiwiSaver and things now, so broadening it out.
Yeah, that's right. Huge amount of investment going back into the business, with like KiwiSaver's been a 2-year project for us now, and I think we've got about 60 customers now, and we're just literally rolling out to about 3 people a day at the moment. So just trying to innovate on that and build that. We've also got the Save product, which is I think it's got about 10 or 15,000 customers now. So again, we'll roll that out slowly. That's how we build product at Sharesies. So, and we've got lots of other cool things. We've got a big focus in Australia at the moment, which is getting some really good traction, and interestingly going much better for us in this market than what it was in the bull market, which we will do study at some point and try to understand that. So big focus there, and talking about the opportunities, like tides will turn. Like this market, I think it's got some legs left yet. Some stress, no doubt, will come on certain parts of the economy. And but on the other side of it, like, it doesn't last forever. So I think the more people who can have that mindset and that attitude, there's more people solving the problems that will ultimately get us out of it. And if we can have that more in our culture, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, well, that goes to a question I've got about when you look at the economy, when you look at New Zealand and poverty and lack of wealth. What do you think the drivers are there? Why some people make it out, some people don't? Do you have thoughts on how, I guess what you're doing can improve that?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a massive problem, and one that is a huge part of the reason we started Sharesies. But the fundamental problem is that people don't start on equal footing, right? And that's through whether it's most New Zealanders get your financial advice and stuff from your parents or from someone close to you, and not everyone in New Zealand, or actually, in fact, quite a small number of people in New Zealand, actually have really good role models for that. And that can be through education, it can be through, the fear of the 87 stock market, it can be through having low minimum wages in New Zealand and not enforcing living wages. It can be low ownership in companies. So, we have a huge amount of people involved, a huge amount of our economy involved in housing as opposed to, productive companies. And I remind people all the time, like the company pays you the mortgage, not the other way around. Like the economics are a little bit twisted in New Zealand sometimes. So I do think about that a lot and what we can do there. And it's a big concern for me because I think places are happier when there's much more equality and you've got a really that thriving. And that's not to say I think you need more wealthy people as well, like people who are because that's not an ambition in itself. It's a byproduct of something that you've achieved and that you've done. So,
Are there things you would change if you were in power, or you were, say, Minister of Commerce or something like that, and you could change some regulatory settings, or you could, change the tax rules, anything like that? Is there one thing that stands out that you'd change you'd like to see made that would assist in sort of bringing people through, creating wealth?
Yeah, not sure politics is for me, but I've got quite a few ideas. Like, I do think you touched on tax rate. I hadn't thought about that as you would until you mentioned it there. But we really should be increasing that lower tax rate. Like, it's just an odd way of the government collecting more tax and off people who literally making people poorer in lower income jobs. So that's like the opposite of what we're trying to do. But in like a utopian world, like my wife Brooke often talks about, like the reverse super type thing, which is where you get super for the first 20 of your years of your life, and it just goes into something like KiwiSaver or whatever, where you just build wealth and then you don't get anything. Then it's sort of up to you.
Yeah.
And then how that's supported. And I do personally like the idea of universal basic incomes and stuff as well. But if we can start at people young and do a much better job of giving people at least that platform to start, so that we're on a much more even keel, I think that would be huge, and then your things like financial education and stuff can become really, really valuable.
Yeah, I mean, do you guys do a lot of that? You do. Sharesies is sort of holistic in that sense, isn't it? It's got
a huge amount. And people really lap it up, and we do. Not only do we write a lot of blogs and do a lot of educational content, podcasts, all that type of thing, we also try and make it really timely. So content in the experience as things happen, and we see a lot of behaviour changes through that, and ultimately through the experience of building Sharesies, we've tried to make the easiest path the path that will most likely deliver you good outcomes. And there's a lot of people. One of my pet frustrations is, you hear it all the time. I read another article about it from someone this morning. Is things like Sharesies isn't for everyone or something like that. And the number of times I hear that from people who say, I'm only just experienced enough to pick my own shares. Everyone's got this view. It's like, what makes you different to I just think that's such rubbish. Like, people consistently make good decisions on our platform, for what I see. And if you want to try and outperform the market, that seems like something we should aspire to do. And we should celebrate, not get too down on it. And I'm a pretty boring investor myself with funds and ETFs and stuff like that. But every now and again, I decide I want to pick a company, give it a good crack. But I also left my job in a bank and started a company. Like, I really like celebrating
some risk. I mean, It seems like
the risk and the ambition for it.
And it seems like you have a good understanding. And where I often, talk to people about personal finance, the most important thing is understanding risk and relative to your own appetite, right? So you're not going to feel upset if you lose if you knew the risks going in. It's when risks misaligned that seems to be upsetting for people.
Exactly, and so much of that is education, and that's the whole thing of just getting started with a small amount, because the best way to, like, humans are incredible learners, right? You look at kids and what they can do. It's just amazing. And unfortunately, we beat ourselves down for the next 3 decades of our life, saying that we can't, it gets even worse when you're older. But actually, we're really good at it. So it doesn't matter what age you are. If you just give something a try, even though you'll fall down a few times, it doesn't matter if it's not that impactful. So, and you start to realize that these fear comments that come all the time from people, often from supposedly experts, saying things like, don't invest money you can't afford to lose and all that. Like, that's just rubbish. Like, you're doing it all wrong if you're investing money, like if you're expecting to lose it all, or we've just got far greater problems as an economy. So it's just how you start to break that down by giving it a go and reading and having confidence in your own ability to learn. And then ultimately behaviors matter, like what motivates you. And you're right, if you're going to stay up, sleep, if you're not going to sleep at night because of your investing, then start it with a much smaller amount of money that's not going to impact your sleep. And as you get more and more educated, then that'll just creep up, and before you know it, you're making a meaningful difference to your ability to generate wealth. That's
great, Leighton. Look, leave it there. One last question. You still playing the trumpet?
No, I've been off. I'm actually going to a brass band concert tonight. It's a guy over who's from the London Symphony. Yeah, and I've still got a lot of friends there, but no, it's been about 2 years, and I do play it sometimes on Anzac Day for the last post, so I bring it out then. I play Happy Birthday to people at work every now and again, and I played my kids some tunes every now and again as well, but yeah, not as much as I used to. One day I'll come back to it.
Yeah. Hey, look, that's great. It's been great to chat. Cheers, all the best.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening. If you've got feedback, drop me a line, liam.dann@nzherald.co.nz. Thanks to my producer, Ethan Sills, and our editor, Leanne McDonald. Follow Money Talks on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Catch you again next week.